Please let me go. I promise I will never come back here. Just please let me take my son. He is too young to be separated from his mother." Adaobi cried, begging, tears streaming down her face, her clothes torn from being dragged across the concrete floor, the floor she had used her life savings to repair. The room was damp, the smell of cooked food coming from the kitchen, her own kitchen where she had spent years cooking delicious meals, a home she had decorated herself, where she had known so much love and peace from her husband Ifeanyi. She was so tired and in so much pain from her bruises. Her eyes were red from crying, snot running down her nose, her head hurt, her whole body ached from 2 days of beatings received from her husband. Everything hurt, but the worst pain she felt was in her heart, the pain of betrayal from a man she had once loved, the pain of all the wasted years trying to make their home a happy one, even though they never had enough money. But they had love and peace and a beautiful 4-year-old son named Obinna. Adaobi was a beautiful 26-year-old woman who fell in love and married Ifeanyi, a poor, lazy farmer from the village of Amasiko. She was a very hard-working trader, selling vegetables in the village market. Her business grew due to her hard work and dedication, and in no time she was taking care of the home from her earnings. They were blessed with a son named Obinna, who was 4 years old. Their happiness grew. Their home was peaceful, but her husband became lazier as time went on, leaving Adaobi to work twice as hard to take care of their home. Ifeanyi would wake up very late in the morning to go to the farm. His farm was not doing well, and he became unhappy. Try and wake up early to go to the farm. Adaobi would try to encourage him, but this only angered him more. One day, Adaobi woke up early as usual. She cleaned the house, prepared food for her husband, and took her 4-year-old son Obinna with her to the market. In the evening, when she returned home, she found a woman in her kitchen, cooking and singing happily to herself. "Who are you?" Adaobi asked the strange woman in her home. "My name is Neoma. I am your co-wife," she replied coldly without looking at her. Adaobi was shocked. She went in the bedroom to look for her husband and demand an explanation as to what was going on. Her husband, Ifeanyi, was lying on the bed, clothes scattered over the floor, bed unmade, and she realized what had happened before she came home. "What is this, Ifeanyi? What have you done? Are you blind?" he answered her angrily. "I have brought home my second wife. She is rich and very beautiful, and she is going to give me more children," Ifeanyi continued, without moving from the bed. Adaobi stood there, tears streaming down her face. She went outside and sat on a bench, thinking to herself, "What do I do now?" Her son Obinna came to her, wiping the tears from her face. "Mama, don't cry," he said in his small voice, trying to console his mother. Adaobi went back inside the house to take a shower and settle in for the night. She made dinner for herself and her son and went back outside in the corridor to lay down on a mat, her thoughts racing. Where do I go from here? Inside the house, her husband and his new wife Neoma were eating dinner, chatting and laughing happily. She walked past them and went in the bedroom, trying to settle in for the night. Her husband stood up immediately and followed her to the bedroom. "You will be sleeping in the sitting room with your son from this night. The bedroom is for me and my new wife." Adaobi took a wrapper and went back in the sitting room, which was where she slept for the next few weeks, minding her own business and taking care of her son. She started saving from her sales from the business she was running. She would hide her money in corners of the living room, praying that no one saw it and took the money. Her life became lonely. She had lost her husband to another woman. Their home that was once filled with love had become unbearable as her husband kept finding fault in everything she did. Whenever she cooked and served her husband, he would leave the food untouched. Sometimes he would ask Neoma to dump the food in the dustbin. Neoma would say all sorts of lies against her just to start trouble. Her husband would believe all the lies without asking any questions. But Adaobi was not only a wise woman, she was a very peaceful person. Neoma, the co-wife, would finish cooking and leave the kitchen dirty. She would finish eating and leave dirty plates all over the table. Adaobi would come back home tired to meet a very dirty house. When she complained, she was told to clean up the mess if it bothered her. Adaobi could not understand the sudden hatred her husband had for her. She did not know what she had done wrong or how to fix things. And worst of all, she had just discovered she was pregnant with their second child and was waiting for the right time to tell her husband the good news, hoping the news of her pregnancy would soften his heart towards her. The next morning, she decided she was going to share the good news with Ifeanyi when she got back home in the evening. She got ready and went about her day. She was cheerful, hopeful, and happy the whole day. When she returned home in the evening, she saw Ifeanyi seated outside under the mango tree, happily drinking palm wine and eating bushmeat, while Neoma sat beside him chatting happily. Obinna, their 4-year-old son, ran to his father happily to get his usual hug, but he pushed him aside. "Go to your mother. I want to be quiet," he said irritably. Obinna burst into tears and ran back to his mother's arms. He was shocked and confused by this treatment from a father he once knew as loving, kind, and gentle towards him. He raised his tear-filled eyes to his mother, questions in his young eyes, wondering what he had done wrong. From that moment, Adaobi knew that she could never tell her husband her good news. She had to keep it to herself and hope that one day things would work themselves out. She kept her pregnancy secret for weeks, until one early morning she was vomiting at the back of the house. Not knowing, Neoma had followed her and was observing her from nearby. So she is pregnant. From that moment, Neoma began to plan how to get rid of Adaobi. Adaobi became a shadow of herself. She lost her once cheerful smile, so bright that neighbors looked forward to passing her on the way to the market. She was kind and genuinely interested in helping others. Some days she forgot things. Her small business was starting to lose money, but in all these she took care of her son. She loved and protected him, knowing that she was all he had. Life continued for her like this dreary, long, sad, until one day she came back home and found out she couldn't find her savings. She searched the whole house looking for the money, while Neoma stood at the door watching, saying nothing, arms folded on her chest, clapping hands at intervals and telling Adaobi to stop scattering the house. That evening, when their husband came home from a village meeting drunk and in a bad mood, he entered and found everywhere scattered. "What is going on here?" he barked from the doorway. "I can't find my money," Adaobi sobbed in response. "I have had enough of your nonsense. Pack your things and leave my house." Ifeanyi shrieked at her, yanking her towards the door to throw her out of the house. "I have nowhere to go," Adaobi wailed dejectedly. "I don't care. Just get out and don't come back. Let me take my things and my son, and I will leave. And I also need my money. I can't find it anywhere in the house." Ifeanyi spun around and landed a hot slap on her cheek. "How dare you accuse us of stealing your money?" He yanked her closer and continued to beat her. She shrieked out in pain, calling on the neighbors to come save her. All the while, Neoma was standing, just watching Adaobi in pain and tears, doing nothing to help her. Adaobi knew this was the end if the neighbors didn't come quickly to help her. Finally, some people heard her screams and came in to stop Ifeanyi. He was taken away by a neighbor to the village chief, forcefully to stop the fight. The chief scolded him for beating his wife and warned him never to repeat such. Ifeanyi returned home and went straight to the bedroom, accompanied by Noma, who spent the night convincing Ifeanyi to send Adaobi away. The next morning, Adaobi woke up early to go about her day and was surprised to see her husband already awake, sitting on a chair in the living room. Immediately he saw Adaobi. He grabbed her bag of clothes and threw them at her feet. "You need to leave today. I don't want you here. I am going nowhere. This is my home too," Adaobi replied. Then the beating started again. He dragged her by her hair and threw her towards the door. "Get out!" he shouted. Adaobi was in so much pain, both from the previous night's beating. She thought to herself, "I don't want to die here. It is time to go. All right, I will leave. Please let me take my son. He is too young to be without his mother. Please let us leave and we will never come back here." Adaobi took her son and set off, while Neoma clapped her hands with happiness, dancing. She had no idea where to go. She found a tree and sat under the shade to think. She had lost her savings and had only small vegetables left in her goods at the market for sale. She sat under the tree, lost in thought. Adaobi drifted off into sleep from exhaustion. A few minutes later, her eyes flew open with fright from a terrible dream that felt like a message. She saw an old woman covered in charcoal soot from head to toe, telling her to follow. "Come with me, my child," the old woman said to her. "Don't be afraid. I am not going to hurt you. Tain." And so Adaobi followed the woman. They walked and walked for days, finally arriving at a flowing stream. They crossed the stream, floating across the water without drowning. There were lots of fishes swimming around them. They were the biggest size she had ever seen in such a small stream. She became frightened, but the old woman urged her on. "Don't be afraid, my child. These are your sisters, and they are here to make sure you get across safely," the old woman reassured her. They reached the middle of the stream and sank to the bottom, where Adaobi was hit by a blinding white light. There sat a majestic woman on a golden throne, surrounded by beautiful maidens. The sight was so beautiful, yet scary to behold. She froze on the spot, too afraid to move forward. "Day, come closer, my child," said the woman on the golden throne. "Day." Adaobi moved forward slowly, afraid of what she wanted from her or why she was here under the water among strange women. She moved as close as she could and stopped. "Kneel," the woman commanded. Adaobi knelt in front of the woman. She placed her hands on Adaobi's head and said, "Welcome home, my child. Your journey has just begun. The road is going to be tough, but you will find strength within you. Go back and fulfill your destiny. We will be with you every step of the way. Our light will guide your steps. Now go." Adaobi woke up screaming, holding her stomach to make sure her unborn baby was fine. She stood up and hurriedly gathered her things. "Come, Obinna, let's go." She grabbed her son's hand and hurriedly walked towards the market. When she got to her stall, she set up for the day's sales. Customers started trickling in one after the other. Sales were good that day, but Adaobi was still worried as she had no idea where she and her son would sleep that night. Later in the evening, as the market was starting to close, Adaobi knew it was time to seriously think of where they would sleep. She approached a woman in a nearby stall that sold yams. "Mama Chinedu, please, I need to rent a room for 1 month for me and my son." "What happened to your home? Where is your husband?" "It's a long story, Mama Chinedu. I will tell you all about it another time. Just help me find a room tonight." That night, with the help of her neighbour, she found a room nearby the marketplace. The neighbours had kids the same age as her son. She was very happy that her son would have children to play with. Too, life went on peacefully. Her business was moving fine. Her son was growing and happy, and her pregnancy was moving along well. Adaobi began to recover. Her smile came back. She was determined, focused, and ready to build her family. Adaobi tried her best to hide her pregnancy under baggy, oversized clothes so that rumors would not get back to her husband. Every night, when she went to sleep, she found herself at the bottom of the stream, surrounded by glowing, mystical women. She started to look forward to visiting them every night. She began to glow every day. Her life suddenly had a better meaning, and at the back of her mind, she sensed that these were not just dreams. Adaobi lost her own mother when she was just 2 years old. She was raised by her father, who later died of a strange illness at 44, leaving Adaobi all by herself, with no one to turn to. She was an only child with barely any education, but she was smart, intelligent, beautiful, and hard-working. These qualities helped her a lot in life. When she was 9 years old, she decided to ask about her mother and how she died. So one day, after serving her father dinner, she asked him about her mother. "My daughter, as you know, your mother died when you were still very young." Adaobi's father paused, staring into space with tears running down his face, remembering the circumstances that surrounded his wife's death. He remembered how he had come back home very late one night and found there was no water for him to take his bath. He called for his wife, demanding why there was no water in the house. "I fetched water and filled up the drum outside. I think the neighbour's goat got into the yard and tipped the water over. Let me collect water from the neighbour for tonight, for your bath. Tomorrow morning, first thing, I will go to the stream to fetch water." "Please pardon me, my husband," said Adaobi's mother, trying to calm him down. "No," he screamed at her. "Go to the stream and fetch me water." Adaobi's mother was shocked that he would insist she go so late to the stream at night by herself, knowing that everywhere was dark and lonely at that time, and there could be danger. But he stubbornly would not listen, so she picked up a bucket and left for the stream. Hours passed, and she was yet to return. He started to worry. He hurried to neighbours' houses to start a search party. They took lamps and torches and set off to look for her. They spent the whole night searching and calling her name, but she was nowhere to be found. It was as if she vanished. While searching, they found her pile of clothes folded neatly at the foot of the stream, but she was not there. Some of the swimmers went into the water to try and look for her body, all to no avail. They brought boats, canoes, and professional swimmers from neighbouring villages to help, but no positive result came. Adaobi's father spent years going back to the stream every day to wait for his wife to surface. After some years, he gave up hope. He tried to find another wife, but no woman in the village would agree to marry him. When he walked past neighbors, they whispered, "That's the man who sent his wife to her death just because he wanted to take a bath." They called him all sorts of names for years. Some even called him a wizard, while some mothers told their daughters never to visit Adaobi's home because of her wicked father. Adaobi grew up for the first 6 years of her childhood, mostly alone, as no child would agree to play with her. She got used to being by herself, and she taught herself how to sew and cook from an early age. She became a strong, independent child, and as years passed, she began to make friends of her own. One early morning, the neighbors woke up to the sound of a woman shouting and running back from the direction of the stream. Neighbors poured out of their homes to ask why she was shouting. The woman looked so terrified, she slumped on the ground and fainted. They finally woke her up. She tried to explain what her eyes had seen at the stream. "I saw a ghost," she replied. "I saw Awel, Adaobi's mother, washing her hair at the stream. I swear I saw her." The neighbors all ran towards the stream to witness with their own eyes the return of Awel, Adaobi's mother. But on getting there, they couldn't find her. "You are a liar," one of the neighbors shrieked. "You woke up the entire village for nothing." As time passed, other villagers kept confirming they had seen Ale at the stream washing her hair. So the villagers decided to consult the oracle and find out what was going on. They consulted the village chiefs, who in turn chose a date for the priest to do his work. On the day of the consultation, it rained so hard it blew down trees and huts. The wind was full of sand. Everywhere went as dark as nighttime, but the village priest continued working. He was not afraid. The whole village was flooded, and all the women and children were told to remain indoors for their safety. The priest continued chanting incantations, singing in a trance. His head tilted back, his eyes whitish, his mouth foaming. He was a scary sight to behold. Suddenly, there was a loud burst of thunder, quickly followed by lightning, rocking the village to its core. It was so scary. Mothers screamed from their homes, babies shrieked in fright, and even some men ran back. Then, suddenly, everywhere was quiet and still. There was no sound. You could hear people breathing in fear. Others held their breath in anticipation. Dogs started barking. Cats were running everywhere. Suddenly, another clap of thunder sent everyone running for safety, followed by a very bright light shining down on the oracle. In the middle sat Awel, Adaobi's mother, seated with a calabash filled with water, washing her hair and humming. "What do you want, Awel?" the chief priest asked. "I am here for my daughter. I am here to take her home," replied Awel. "Where is home?" the chief priest asked. "Home is with me," replied Al. "What happened to you, Awel?" "I went to the stream, and the stream took me home." Adaobi's father stood a distance away, tears streaming down his face. He dropped on his knees and begged Awel not to take their daughter. He asked for her forgiveness for sending her to the stream the night she disappeared. All raised her face and stared without expression at Adaobi's father. "I forgive you. I did not disappear. I went back home. Just give me my daughter, and I will leave this village alone in peace." "You are dead, Awel. You don't belong here, and neither does Adaobi. Leave and never come back." The priest interrupted, chanting incantations. The heavens opened up, everywhere shook with thunder and lightning. A few minutes later, Awel vanished into thin air. From that day on, she was never sighted again. The story of Awel shook the entire village, and it spread to faraway neighboring villages. Adaobi's father spent his remaining years in regret, sad, lonely, and alone. Some said he died of a strange illness. Others said Awel took him. Others believed he died of grief. One rainy morning, Adaobi woke up early to go to the stream to fetch water. On arriving there, she sighted a woman washing her hair and singing in low tones. Adaobi moved closer and greeted her. "Good morning, Ma," she said to the older woman by the stream. The strange woman raised her eyes and stared at Adaobi. She stepped back quickly in fear. She recognized this face. Then she started to think where she had seen the woman before. She remembered it was in a dream. Then the realization hit her. She was one of the glowing mystical women. "I know you!" Adaobi screamed, backing away while holding her bulging pregnancy protectively with her hand. "Oh, don't be afraid, my child. I am not here to hurt you. I have always loved and protected you since you were a baby." "Who really are you?" Adaobi demanded. "You know who I am," the woman replied. "Yes, you are one of my sisters. I have seen you plenty of times underground," Adaobi replied. "I am not your sister. I am your mother," Awel replied, staring intently at Adaobi. "I was called back home when you were barely 2 years old." "My mother is dead. She drowned in the village stream when I was 2 years old." "What did your father tell you about my death?" the woman asked. "He told me everything." Adaobi stepped back as realization dawned on her. The woman at the stream, always rumored to be washing her hair, covered in mist, was the same woman standing right in front of her. She gasped, eyes wide open. "And don't be afraid. I am here to give you news of your future and to warn you about something that will happen soon." Late. The woman cut a strand of her long hair and asked Adaobi to take it. "Put this hair under your pillow tonight while you sleep, and all will be revealed to you." Hesitantly, Adaobi stretched out her hand and collected the hair. Within seconds, the woman vanished. Adaobi ran back in the direction of the village, leaving her bucket behind. On getting back home, her son was playing with the neighbor's children. She called out to him and hurriedly locked the door behind her. That night, she was anxious about the hair strand and impatient to see what would be revealed about her future. Adaobi did as the strange woman instructed. She fed her son Obinna. They took their bath and went to bed, placing the hair strand under her pillow. That night, while she slept, the visions poured in. They felt so real and frightening at the same time. They scared her, and she tried to wake up, but she could not. The hair strand was doing its work. It was revealing what is to come in the next few days. It frightened her. She sweated with terror. She shrieked in her dreams, her mouth opening and closing without a sound coming out. When she woke, she was covered in sweat. Shaking from fright, she sat up in her bed and reached for the hair strand under her pillow, but it was gone, vanished. She got up and prepared for the day. On arriving at the market, the sun was already up. Customers and market women already all set up for the day's activities. Haggling of prices and shouts of vendors filled the dusty village market. dogs barking playfully and children running around playfully. Adaobi opened her stall and set up for the day. Soon her customers started coming in. Few hours later, Adaobi raised her face to catch her breath and rest a little bit. The morning had been very busy for her. She sat down to drink some water and saw Neoma, her co-wife. She was already pregnant. Behind her was Ifeanyi, her husband, carrying the shopping bags, looking happy and proud, smiling. They moved towards the direction of Adaobi's stall and stopped right in front of her. "Good morning, Adaobi." They both greeted her and bought some vegetables from her. Adaobi was surprised that they would even approach her. They paid for what they had bought and suddenly asked to see Obinna. Adaobi called out for her son to come greet his father and stepmom. Obinna came and hugged his father, and without asking Adaobi, he asked if Obinna would like to come stay with them for a week. All this while Ifeanyi had not noticed the bulging pregnancy of his first wife. He was too selfish to observe or care about anyone but himself. Adaobi vehemently refused her son to go stay with his father and stepmother, and she had been warned in her dreams the night before of danger surrounding her son. She told Ifeanyi that she cannot accept that, and also Neoma is pregnant and will be too tired to properly take care of Obinna. "Nonsense," Ifeanyi replied. "I will help to take care of him, don't worry." Adaobi insisted and vehemently refused his request. All this while, Neoma did not say anything, but the night before she had hatched a plan convincing her husband to take the boy to come live with them. Her intentions were not good ones, but Adaobi was ready. Her mother had shown and prepared her for the future, but sadly she was not prepared enough. That evening, Adaobi closed for the day and searched everywhere for Obinna. She called out to him while frantically searching everywhere, but Obinna was nowhere to be found. She flung herself on the ground, wailing, while market women moved closer to find out what was going on. Immediately, they all started helping her to look for Obinna. A young boy who had been playing with Obinna came forward and said he saw Obinna going home with his father and Neoma. Adaobi quickly closed her shop and rushed to Ifeanyi's house. On getting there, Ifeanyi was seated on a bench eating fufu and a bowl of okra with meat piled high on top. He was very happy. And on a second bench was Neoma the co-wife also eating. Adaobi was very angry that her son went home with them, even though she had vehemently disagreed with the idea. "I told you not to take him home with you," Adaobi screamed at them, shaking with anger, but relieved to see her son safely there eating. "I did not take him forcefully," Ifeanyi replied. "Besides, he is also my son, and I don't need your permission." "Obinna, let's go home." Adaobi took her son's hand. "Let him finish his food." Neoma tried to calm her down. "Neoma, stay out of this. Stay away from me and my son. You already took my husband. You already took my home. Stay away from us." Adaobi screamed at her while leaving with her son. Ifeanyi rushed towards Adaobi and tried to slap her, but this time she was prepared. She bent down and grabbed a handful of sand, throwing them directly in Ifeanyi's eyes. He screamed with pain and cursed at her loudly. "Come near me and my son again, and you will regret it, I promise you." Adaobi screamed at him, shaking with anger. "Never, ever go anywhere with strangers," Adaobi yelled at her son on reaching home. "But Mama, they are not strangers. He is my father, and Neoma is not a stranger, and I was still eating." Obinna wailed, tears in his eyes. "They are strangers to us the day they threw us out of our home. Go and take your bath and go to bed," Adaobi replied him, looking away in anger. The next morning, Adaobi woke up early as usual. She cleaned the house, prepared food for breakfast, and went to wake Obinna to come take his bath. "Obinna, wake up, we have to go soon." There was silence. No response. So she went and shook him to wake him up. His skin was hot, feverish. Adaobi sat him up on her laps, touching his forehead, checking for signs of fever. She placed him back down, tied her wrapper firmly, and carried him rushing off to the village herbalist who is reputed to cure all type of illness with herbs. "Mazi," she called out loudly on reaching the herbalist's house. "Bring him inside and place him on the mat," the herbalist replied to her with urgency. Soon he was burning leaves and some other herbal concoctions on a big pot placed over firewood stove. "Lift him up and give him this to drink," handing over a hot steaming cup to Adaobi. She sat him on her lap and gave him the concoction. Few minutes later he started to sneeze and cough, opening his eyes. "Lay him back down and let him rest for some time. I will give you some herbs to boil for him before you leave," said the herbalist. Adaobi was relieved, but she continued to worry if this incident is part of the danger she had seen in her dreams. "I did not see this part," she thought to herself, deep in her own thoughts, while the herbalist prepared her leaves. She worried and hoped that her son would be all right and that it was just a small fever. That day she did not go to the market. She spent the day taking care of her son. 3 days later, there was still no improvement. Obina was not eating, not talking, just laying down the whole day, drooling on the mat. Adaobi was worried and scared, so she took him back to the herbalist. "This is worrisome," the herbalist said upon sighting Obina and checking his breathing. "Has he been like this the whole time?" he asked her. "We will have to take other measures. Stay here with him while I go to fetch the priest." The herbalist set off and went to look for the village priest. Upon arriving at his place, the priest told him, "I know why you are here," even before he said anything. "There is nothing we can do for him at this point," the priest continued. "Just come with me to my place and check the boy, please, I beg you. I have tried all my strongest herbs and none seem to have worked," the herbalist begged. The priest agreed and they set off back to the herbalist's home. On arriving, the priest carried Obina into the courtyard and placed him on a mat under a tree. He started chanting incantations while throwing kola nuts on the sand, going in circles. "Spirit of the land, spirit of the sea, spirit of the fire, spirit of the wind, I call on you all. Show us what is wrong with this child. Is he still here with us? Is he already leaving this realm? Show us, please." The priest closed his eyes, moving from side to side, his head tilted back, his mouth moving. After some time, he called out to Adaobi, "Your son is between two worlds. I have tried everything in my power. I am sorry, Ada. There is nothing more I can do to help him. It is all in the hands of the gods now." Adaobi flung herself on the ground, wailing and sobbing loudly. "My son!" she cried out, holding his head to her chest. "You will not die. You will live to fulfill your destiny." She carried him and headed to the direction of the stream. "I am going to sit here until my mother arrives." Adaobi made up her mind, and so she sat by the stream the whole day, not eating, not drinking, calling out to her sisters from the water and to her mother to come and help her son. Neighbors that came to the stream to fetch water saw her sitting there with her son crying and brought her food, but she would not touch the food. They left and came back with Ifeanyi, her husband, but he could not get her to leave the stream. Finally, night came. She was alone by the stream. She was not afraid, and it was dark and quiet. Suddenly, the stream opened up in the middle, and Adaobi felt hands carrying her and her son to the bottom of the stream. That was the last thing she remembered. The next day, Adaobi woke up in her own bed. Obina was in the kitchen eating fruits he found in a bowl. He was so hungry. Adaobi jumped up with joy, dancing and thanking her sisters and mother from the sea. She had no idea what day it was or how long they were at the bottom of the stream. Her son was alive and well. He had been healed. She grabbed some vegetables from the kitchen and made him a soup, took him his bath, and they went to the shop. Most of her vegetables were rotten due to her absence, and she managed to sell the few remaining good ones. That night, when she went to sleep, she found herself again at the bottom of the stream, and her sisters explained to her that Obina ate poisonous food. Adaobi knew immediately that this was Neoma's doing. From that day onwards, she kept her son away from his father and his evil wife. Life continued for Adaobi and Obina. Her pregnancy progressed fine. Obina found a school nearby, and he was very happy with his new friends. Soon Adaobi's pregnancy was 9 months, and it would soon be time to go into labor, so she arranged with her neighbor from the market to be checking on her every time in case she went into labor suddenly. Ifeanyi, her husband, already heard the rumor that his wife was pregnant and had bumped into her at the market several times, accusing her of cheating and getting pregnant while she was still living with him. Adaobi would completely ignore his accusations and would not tell him that she was already pregnant when he chased her out of her home. Adaobi had spent the months before going around talking to the village farmers to be supplying her vegetables on credit. She found a hard-working farmer, a widower, who agreed to supply her, and she would pay later after sales. Her business started to grow. She employed a young girl from the village to be helping her, as her pregnancy would not allow her to do much hard work. She was so organized and intelligent in business, she grew as far as supplying other vegetable sellers in bulk, and she would only go to her shop when she was less busy. Finally, she went in labor. Her friend came from the market to help her, while her son stayed with her salesgirl at the market. Few hours into labor, Adaobi gave birth to a beautiful baby girl, whom she named Adanma. But there was something different about Adanma. She was definitely born different.
Adaobi and her friend stared at the baby in shock. She had a full head of hair, black and shiny like the midnight sky, eyes as blue as the bottom of the ocean, clear golden brown skin, the most beautiful skin they had ever seen. Adaobi decided she would do everything to protect her baby. She knew it was not going to be easy, and villagers would talk and gossip about her. She knew there would be more trouble from Ifeanyi, her ex-husband, and she was right. News of the baby's birth and physical looks reached Ifeanyi, who wasted no time in coming to Adaobi's house to see with his own eyes. When Ifeanyi arrived, Adaobi refused to allow him enter nor see the baby. He stood outside her door, shouting and raining curses on Adaobi. After a while, he left and came back with the village elders, who demanded to find out who the father of the baby was. Adaobi came out to meet the elders sitting on a bench outside her home. The elders demanded to see the newborn baby, which she vehemently refused. She demanded that her marriage should be dissolved completely, as she did not want anything from her husband. A date was set for when their marriage would finally be dissolved, and they all left for their separate homes. Sighing with relief that they had left, Adaobi went back in to take care of her baby. A few weeks later, her divorce was finalized, and Adaobi was ready to move on with her life. Her children were growing, they were in good health, and her vegetable business was booming. She moved out of her one room and rented a bigger place. Her children dressed well, they were well fed, and life was good. A few weeks later, news reached Adaobi that Neoma had given birth to a boy, but all was not well. Neoma's baby came earlier than expected, so there was complication, and they needed money to travel to the city to see a good doctor. "Let's go see if Adaobi will agree to help us," Ifeanyi suggested to his new wife. "Over my dead body," Neoma replied her husband angrily. "I don't need her money. She is a witch that placed a curse on our child." But Adaobi was not a witch. She was a strong woman that endured hardship and betrayal and worked so hard till she achieved success on her own. Neoma, on the other hand, was a jealous, spiteful woman who took happiness from hurting others. Adaobi knew what she had done to poison her son's food, hoping Obina would die from eating the food. But she had no idea that higher forces were protecting Adaobi. She had no idea how powerful Adaobi was. She rose to so much wealth that she already had stores in neighboring villages. And she had started to rebuild her family house. Adaobi's mother, the woman by the stream seen washing her hair and vanishing, had bestowed blessings and riches on Adaobi. She had placed a curse on Enioma and Ifeanyi for how they treated her. But they did not know any of this, so they went and borrowed money from the village thrift collector, hoping to pay him back when Neoma resumed her business. On the way to the city hospital with the new baby boy, Neoma and Ifeanyi were involved in a ghastly motor accident. The only survivor was their newborn baby and the driver. News of the accident reached Adaobi, and her heart broke for the newborn infant. The whole village was in shock, but Adaobi was not surprised. This was the vision she had seen months earlier that frightened her, the death of Neoma and Ifeanyi. Adaobi got dressed and embarked on a trip to take the newborn baby to a hospital, and afterwards to bring him home and raise him as her own. Adaobi raised 2 of her kids and her stepson with love in her heart. She never treated the stepson differently. The villagers were surprised by her selflessness and dedication to her children. Her business grew so big that she had to employ more people. She built schools and hospitals in her village. Her children grew to be respectful, humble, and hardworking like her. When the kids were 18 years old and Obina was 23 years old, she stopped seeing the woman by the stream washing her hair. She stopped visiting her sisters at the bottom of the stream. Life went back to normal until one night she fell asleep and all was revealed. Neoma, the co-wife, had gone to a very powerful wicked priest while she was pregnant. She was told that her son was going to die as a child. To stop this from happening, she needed to replace her son's life with another. So she came up with an evil plan to take Obina as replacement for her son's life. But Adaobi had help from her sisters. They healed Obina and blocked the replacement. Neoma and her husband paid the price for their wickedness with their lives, and their young son was raised by Adaobi to become a fine young man and the first medical doctor in the village. Obina grew up to become a farmer himself, like his father. He used the knowledge he got from his education and grew the farming business up to export level. He was sending farm produce all over the country. Adanma, the strange-looking daughter of Adaobi, grew up to be one of the most beautiful women on earth. She was sent to the city at 18 to study at the university. She became the first geologist from her village, brilliant, beautiful, and highly educated. She was wanted by every successful man she came across. Her life was beautiful. Adaobi grew old and weak, and eventually she died, never getting married again. Her life was fulfilled, successful, and filled with love and achievements. Her name was boldly written in schools and hospitals all over her village and neighboring villages to this day. She was buried in the house she grew up in with her father. She had rebuilt it and moved back in when she was too old and fragile to move around. She turned it into a mansion and hired people to run the home and take care of her. Her stepson became her personal doctor. He loved and took care of her till her last breath and apologized for how his parents treated her. Adaobi was buried amidst a lot of fanfare, music, and plenty of food of different dishes. Adaobi went back home to the bottom of the stream and into the welcome embrace of her mother.